So in this clip, Charlie Kirk claims that he's able to get an anti-Trumper to publicly say he will vote for Donald Trump. Charlie Kirk, leader of Turning Point USA. If you don't know who he is, you don't want to.
Hi, Charlie.
But I'm really curious. I really have not seen any part of this yet, so I really want to see what Charlie does to get this anti-Trumper to change his mind.
So my question is, you support Christian values, as do I. How do you support a man who, in many ways, is the antithesis of those values in Donald Trump?
I thought you were going to say Joe Biden.
What? Well, if it's a, you've supported Trump in the primaries too.
Yeah.
So there was other options at that point.
Well, yeah, so you're asking why do I support a sinner?
Why do you support someone who?
Because you're obviously not a sinner, right?
No, I'm a sinner, but his whole life and his values are all the antithesis of what the Ten Commandments are and things like that.
Okay, so I'm not.
So Charlie Kirk going right to, oh, you're not a sinner. This goes to the entire redemption part of Christianity. So essentially, you are able to be as bad of a person as you want, but you're able to genuinely ask for forgiveness. But even in Christianity, as someone who is not a part of that currently, even in Christianity, you need to genuinely be apologetic and change who you are and how you are, and genuinely feel that you committed a sin or committed a wrongdoing. And Donald Trump is someone who has never, he's never admitted to doing anything wrong at all in his entire life. So even under this pretense, Charlie Kirk is essentially saying, we can't say someone's bad or they're not, representing Christian values because we all sin.
I'm not even sure what to make of that. Let's just look at his presidency. I mean, was he not an excellent president? Do you disagree?
Well, I believe that character matters in our leaders.
I do too. So actually, here's my #1 mark of character for a politician. Did you do what you say you were going to do? And Donald Trump did what he said he was going to do.
I'm sorry, do we have a wall across the whole southern border right now?
Well, we built a couple hundred miles of border wall.
But he said he was going to build a full wall.
Right, there were limitations for that. He shut down the government for 60 days over that.
Hold
on a second.
Wait, who is you?
I'm sorry?
You said you shut down the government.
And this is funny too, because we know Trump went back and forth on abortion like 50 times. Trump has been a terrible debt spender. So when Trump says he's going to bring in the national debt, he did not do good there. Trump did not do good with inflation. He's openly lied about many campaign promises. Trump has said to people, to voters, that he's not going to cut Social Security and Medicare. And not only is Trump not going to cut it, but Trump is the only way for Social Security and Medicare to survive, and Democrats will destroy it. And after saying that, Donald Trump went on to include cutting Social Security and Medicare in every single budget as president. And now Project 2025 and Trump's next presidency, if he won, one of their first initiatives would be to cut Social Security and Medicare. So
Donald Trump shut down the government for 60 days to try to get $4 billion in border wall funding. He put Schumer and Pelosi in his office. He did everything at his disposal while he was facing 2 impeachments and 1 ridiculous special counsel investigation. Southern border crossings went down to a 30-year low under Donald Trump. We had asylum seekers that were rejected back to their country of origin. You can nitpick certain things from the right to say, oh, I could have, would have, and should have. But let's go through the promises. Number 1, Donald Trump gave us and fulfilled the promise 3 excellent Supreme Court justices, so that we had the reversal of Roe versus Wade. Hold on. As a Christian, will you...
So essentially, if you have self-serving goals, this is what Charlie Kirk is saying. If you have self-serving goals, then you are allowed and you are encouraged to conduct yourself in any way you want, as long as you're a useful tool for what Charlie Kirk wants politically. So if Trump is able to get elected and do all these things, it doesn't matter if Trump is a terrible person or if he sins every single second and doesn't care. It doesn't matter if Trump actually believes in God. All Charlie Kirk cares about is if Trump can do things for him politically.
Give him credit for that.
I give him credit, but are you saying any other Republican president would have done the same thing?
George W. Bush gave us a liberal Supreme Court justice.
John Roberts?
John Roberts voted against us on critical issue
on
after
which ones, besides Obamacare?
Roe versus Wade.
He was against us on
Roe v. Wade? It was a 5-4 decision, not a, I believe.
Okay, saying that he's a liberal appointment is not true. That was very moderate. It just turns out that now in 2024, moderate means liberal to people like Charlie Kirk. And by the way, Roe v. Wade, overturning that after having so many years of precedent is extremely radical. So as a moderate, you would probably vote against overturning Roe v. Wade because that precedent was set for so long.
I could be incorrect.
I thought it was 6-3, but I may be wrong.
You might be right on that. I don't want to speak out of turn. However, he voted against on many of the other issues recently. By the way, Roberts is very liberal. Okay. So secondly, George H.W. Bush gave us Kennedy, Anthony Kennedy, it might have been Reagan. Either Reagan or Bush gave us
but
Kennedy.
they wouldn't have been elected in 2016 if you had Ted Cruz, if you had Marco Rubio. They would have given us 3 people that match Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Coney Barrett.
Bush gave us liberal tilt justices. And that's number one. But let me just ask a question. George W. Bush, did he ever speak at the March for Life?
I'm not aware of
No,
that.
he didn't, because he was a pro-abortion Republican, because his wife was pro-abortion.
Trump can't even sort out his own take on abortion now.
Well, hold on a sec. You keep on changing the script here. You came here as a question is, how can I, as a Christian, support
You brought up a good question and a good point. So therefore, you're changing the script. Okay, Charlie.
a sinner? We all agree we're all sinners.
As opposed to other candidates who probably have better character in the primaries, like Ron DeSantis.
What do you mean by character exactly?
Like not having a history of adultery, not having a history of immorality, mocking Mike Pence for praying in the White House.
And this is what happens in these scenarios. So you saw this happen with like Ben Shapiro. Charlie Kirk will avoid debating anyone who is like really knowledgeable and more importantly, good at public speaking, because you can have good points like this kid does, but you can see his voice is wavering. His voice is very shaky. He's very nervous. And Charlie Kirk, being a seasoned public speaker, is dominating this kid. Even if this kid's points make more logical sense, it doesn't matter because Charlie Kirk can sound more correct.
So you believe that anyone that has wrongfully cheated on their wife should be disqualified from leadership, public office, all that stuff, yes? So your standards are higher than God's when King David became king over Israel.
Yeah, but if you cheat on your wife 50,000 times and also pay off prostitutes and porn stars, and also you talk about wanting to have sex with your daughter like Donald Trump has said on multiple occasions, that's a little bit more than just cheating on your wife once and asking forgiveness. That's an entire life dedicated to committing adultery. Under the Christian perspective. And the way Charlie dismisses it is very smart, very smart.
You haven't shown the proper remorse for those actions.
Okay, well, you don't know what remorse he has shown or has not shown.
True.
But second...
Yeah, we kind of do, because Trump has never seemed to care. Like, he won't admit he did anything wrong in those cases that I just said. And also, when you ask Trump what is his relationship to God and what is your favorite Bible, verse, or what is your favorite book, he says his own book, Trump has no answers. It's very clear that Trump is not very involved in religion, and that's completely okay. But acting like he's some type of, super religious person is not correct.
Secondly, I'm not going to get into like the deep thicket here of defending Donald Trump's personal life, because we're in a binary right now. And the binary is very simple. Instead of moralizing against a man who's facing 700 years in federal prison for trying to put the American citizen first, I think we as Christians...
He's facing 700 years in prison for trying to put the American first. Yep, that's why he's facing those years in prison. There's no other reason.
Get on our hands and knees and thank God that we have a fighter that is willing to actually go to D.C. and fight for us against that very regime. So hold on a second. You say, how can I as a Christian? I look at Samson, I look at David.
This kid's asking, why would we not support someone like DeSantis in the primary? Essentially, this kid's asking... I don't know why he says anti-Trumper, because this kid's obviously very conservative. But he's saying, why are we picking the most morally objectable person that we can, why would we pick the worst person we could think when we have DeSantis or someone else that's not openly into adultery, into gluttony, into pretty much every one of the deadly sins?
David, I look at sinners throughout the Bible.
So he's asking a really, really, good question. And now Charlie Kirk's talking about sinners in the Bible. And we're not talking about sinners in the Bible that changed their entire life around. We talk about Donald Trump, who's been the same way for literally 60 years.
We're used for God's purposes. Do you recognize that?
Without changing, by the way.
Are you saying that sinners are better than people who have less sins? Because if you looked at someone, just for example, like Ron DeSantis, who has, in my opinion, a much better character than Donald Trump. Are you saying that he wouldn't have gone to D.C. and fought for the values that you're saying Trump would fight for?
So I didn't support DeSantis. I like DeSantis. But let's talk about character. By all objective measurements, George W. Bush had better character than Trump. Loyally married, never accused of adultery, Christian. He gave us the Iraq War. He gave us the Afghan War.
You could point to one person.
Hold on, no, hold on. I'm talking about the only other Republican president of the 21st century, not one other person. Want me to point to his father, H.W. Bush?
What about Reagan?
Reagan is not as good of a president as Donald Trump. Reagan gave us no-fault divorce, mass amnesty. Reagan also expanded the national security state. Reagan was a fine president, but nowhere near as an effective of Donald Trump president. So that's the question ahead of us, which is if you...
Charlie Kirk will say Donald Trump is the best president because Charlie Kirk's not conservative. He is very, very, very far right. I would say fascist. I know that's the fun word to throw around, but he really is just talking about, Reagan supported government programs slightly and supported amnesty slightly, and Reagan wasn't completely barbaric on immigration, so he's not good. That's why I always say Reagan's not nearly as bad as Trump is.
Only look at character, which is your version of character.
Because, Trump is always self-serving. Trump's God is himself. Trump's God is having no restrictions. Trump hates government because they put restrictions on Trump. Trump wants to remove the Constitution. Trump hates the Constitution because the Constitution puts limits on Trump. Anything that does not let Trump be an all-powerful being, he despises.
That's the question ahead of us, which is, if you only look at character, which is your version of character, I don't share that version of character. It's, does the politician do what he says he's going to do? And he did what he said he was going to do.
Well, not
he
really.
did that in abundant terms.
Well, he did some of the things he said he would do. He didn't do everything.
Let's get to another one. Blessed are the peacemakers. You and I as Christians both believe that, right? How many new wars were started under Donald Trump?
But zero were started under Jimmy Carter also. I mean, that's
Hold
not
on,
really
but, hold on, we're talking, yeah, you're right.
I love how new wars is how they move the goalpost, because Donald Trump has defied so many agreements we've had. Our tensions with Iran are almost solely because of Trump not engaging in the Iran nuclear deal, which was, by all standards, our military was reporting that Iran was following our nuclear deal to a T. There was zero evidence that they weren't. Also, Trump negotiating how we were going to leave Afghanistan and then blaming Biden when Biden follows through with the plans Trump set in motion. Abandoning different allies, Trump assassinating war generals. Trump increased drone strikes over Obama by I think 200%. So saying Donald Trump didn't start any new wars, Trump increased conflict around the world. Trump increased our military activity around the world. Trump was more barbaric. Trump dropped more bombs. Trump made us less safe. Trump broke peace. He did not create peace. Saying new wars is this arbitrary standard. Oh, it's not a brand new war with a name.
Zero were started under, I don't know, William Buchanan or something. I don't know. You can go
Zero were started.
way back into the
Be very specific to fit your point.
Presidential register here. I'm not advocating for Jimmy Carter's presidency from hospice, okay? It's a very simple question, which is, in the modern era, from Clinton to Bush to Obama to Trump to Biden, those are 5 presidents, okay? Only one of those 5 did not start a new international, reckless, adventurous war in any theater, and that guy is named Donald Trump. That for me is like a decision. It's like a massive, massive issue, especially when you look at the carnage and the funding. I mean, you don't want war. You're a Christian.
No, I'm not saying everything Trump did was bad.
Fair enough. Okay, but so let me ask you a question. I mean this sincerely. Is there anything he can do to win you over?
I mean, I'll probably end up voting for him just because I don't like the other side. But I would have much rather preferred someone else from the primaries.
Fair enough. I think you're coming after this from a fair perspective, but I would challenge you not to just throw around.
I like RFK, though. I might vote for him.
Okay, well, then you're going to vote for a pro-abortion, pro-choice guy who would put radical left-wingers on the Supreme Court that would never win. But it's fine. You live in Washington, so your vote doesn't matter that much anyway. But it's true. I mean, it's unfortunately a super left-wing state. And just so we're clear, RFK is also an adulterer. I don't know if you've looked into that. So if your criteria is kind of falling apart. So I will just emphasize this, which is, as a Christian, it is tempting to try to impart our disciplined moral walk on every single politician that runs for office. I totally get that. Instead, I take a step back and I say, who has actually done the things to fulfill the policy agenda that I think glorifies God? And that is Donald Trump. It's not even close.
So his opinion is essentially, God is whatever I believe, and God reinforces that. And any politician that does what I believe is actually serving God, because they are doing what I believe, and I believe what God believes, and God believes what I believe, so therefore everything is righteous. This is only for the purpose of engaging in, what is hypocrisy when someone says, oh, he's a great Christian. Why does Donald Trump get so much of the Christian vote? Most likely it's the pro-choice. But when it comes to what kind of person he really is and how deceitful and how much of a serial liar Donald Trump is. I know these conversations are exhausting, but that's the purpose of evaluating this, because of course you shouldn't really judge someone based off religion or based off their own religious code, but you should base them off of pretty much what their impact is on the world.
Not having a history of adultery, not having a history of immorality,
care about
mocking
others?
Mike Pence
Secular
for praying in the
ideas.
White
Hold on.
House.
So you believe that anyone that has wrongfully cheated on their wife should be disqualified from leadership, public office, all that stuff, yes? So
What about like hang Mike Pence?
your standards
That
are
was
higher
said?
than God's
when they
when
haven't
King
shown-
David became king over Israel,
when
just so
they
we're
haven't
clear.
shown
So you're not allowed to critique anyone? You're literally not allowed to critique anyone on this basis then. If like you're going to say your standard is higher than God's whenever this kid says something that Trump did wrong, like are you like what kind of moral system is that
proper
then?
remorse for those actions.
Okay, well, you don't know what remorse he has shown or has not shown. But secondly, I'm not going to get into like the deep thicket here of defending Donald Trump's personal life, because we're in a binary right now. And the binary is very simple.
Okay, yeah. And if you can't say that he doesn't, Trump never forgave anyone in public, Trump has never forgiven anyone for anything, Trump has never said he's sorry for anything either or apologized. Same thing. But at that point, Charlie Kirk is able to isolate literally everything. He's crafted this perfect bubble that's impenetrable. You cannot criticize anyone he likes. You cannot give, and my opinion would be, if you can't say he's not following any of this stuff, then why are you giving him credit for following it? Why is anyone giving him any credit? But yeah, that's a question we've all been asking for a while now.